Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. This is Victor. Victor doesn't know what we're doing this video, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What if you were talking to somebody? This is what was going through my mind. I'm talking to somebody, maybe 12, 14-year-old family member, and who says, well, what's the best form of government then if you could have any form of government? What would be the best form of government? What do you think you would say? This is a tough question. What do you think you would say?
I've actually mentioned this on another video,
Okay.
so I do have a response. And the best form of government is dependent on the person running it, but I would say one person with ultimate power, as long as it's the right person.
Okay. I would say your question's invalid.
Okay.
Because there's no answer to that. Every form of government could be the best form of government, and every form of government could be the worst form of government. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to coin a terrible, bulky word, and I'm going to say, if a government's citizen-centric, puts its citizens as the focus of all of its activities, that it's going to be a good government. Now, my mind's been expanded recently based on all the research we've done and stuff.
Sure.
I wouldn't have said this before because I would say, you know what? Communism. Do communism. Communism is terrible. Wait a second. Is it? Marxism is terrible. Leninism, Stalinism, Maoism, it's all terrible. Now do Gaddafi. We did a video on this, a video on Gaddafi and his Green Book. And they basically made communism. And they made a utopia. And nobody wants to talk about this because we had to destroy them because they were a citizen-centric government. The problem wasn't communism. The problem was that they were citizen-centric, and we can't have that.
So the type doesn't matter as much as their motives.
Right. And it's kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah.
Because you were saying it depends. It depends. I'll take a monarchy if it's a citizen-centric monarchy.
Totally.
Which would be better than a constitutional republic that's not citizen-centric.
100%.
And so this is just my pitch. It's not like a very long idea here.
Right. It's a very basic thing, but it shifts your way of thinking about governments.
Right. It's not as important the type of government. I'll go back to a monarchy if I can get citizen-centric. That sounds wild, though, when you first think of it.
Yeah.
That's an archaic form of government.
Yeah, but I mean, you're brainwashed to think that democracy is the only way and that type of thing, but...
Right, as if the solution is inherent within democracy or within a form of government. It is not. They're just different ways to either be corrupt or to be citizen-centric.
Yeah.
So now when you look at, like, say you look at South America. So I was watching... Tim Pool had that Marianne lady on there.
Oh, yeah.
And she's the one with the crystals. And they were saying, what's the problems with South America? And that, well, all the governments down there are terrible. And then the citizens are all poor, and there's economic migration, and then we got to fix the problems down there. But all the problems down there have occurred because every time they get a citizen-centric leader, the United States does a coup on them. Same thing happens in Africa. You get all these people who could build up a successful Africa, and you get the United States just running around doing coups. And it's not because they're dictators or because they said Gaddafi was a dictator. He wasn't. You Google it, in Wikipedia, it says he was a figurehead because he had given absolute power of his country to the people's committees, which is just communism. Not a problem with communism the U.S. has. It's with citizen-centric government. So that's why that should be the number one thing we want. I'm not going to wrestle you about the exact type of government.
Right.
If you watch this channel, you know I have a type of government that I prefer. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying it's the best, because if it's not citizen-centric, it's not the best. It's
right.
Like I said, I'll take a monarchy. I'll settle with you on a monarchy where I'm not the monarch.
Right.
As long as it's citizen-centric.
Right.
And you see, that's the number one thing the U.S. opposes around the world. Right.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Based on the pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, if we go back to World War II, Mussolini, I don't know a ton about Mussolini.
Yeah, I don't either.
But he was trying to make the trains run on time. Can't be having that.
Right.
Can't be having that, Mussolini. And we do the same thing with Hitler. And then basically, like, you look at people like Churchill, who serves global interests.
Right.
He's allowed to be in the club because he's pursuing global interests. Is not the best interest of... He'll drag Britain into war.
Right.
That they don't need to after all these peace treaties because it's not a citizen-centric government.
His citizens. Right.
Right. And you almost need a coalition of citizen-centric governments of all different races.
Yeah.
But just for themselves.
Right.
Like the African coalition we had talked about in the Malcolm X video. We need a South American coalition. The problem is the United States and the other globalist-oriented countries won't allow the citizen-centric countries to gain power.
Because it's not in their interest as globalists.
Right. And so that's my whole pitch.
Yeah, as you're talking, I was, the thought goes in my head like, well, so could communism be good? And I'm so trained to like, oh, no
Yeah.
communism, but like, well, what if? I'm not saying I'm into communism. I'm just saying like, well, what if there was actually someone for the people? Could it actually work?
Right. And for Gaddafi, it did work. But in the majority of times, I think, okay, so I think I'm scared of a citizen-centric government that is a system that can be easily corrupted.
Right.
So, for example, when I said I'll take a monarchy, I'm only getting one generation of citizen-centric.
Right, that's the worry.
So I'm still not a monarchist, we'll say. But I do see the value in the orientation of the government towards the citizens.
Well,
But I also want to focus on continuity and checks and balances and stuff.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that was the basis of America, was let's put all of this crazy stuff in place so that they basically can't do anything. So if we get a bad person in charge, they're kind of stuck. And they went to try to control the person that's in charge or the people in charge, as opposed to just putting good people in charge.
Right. And I'm thinking more, like, as I think about it more and more, I think that there was never any of that. None of that was ever real.
Okay.
Because from the very beginning, it was just corruption, that the whole thing is just a facade. This is kind of a different topic. But you look at George Washington raising an army larger than the Continental Army to go bust down the rebellion in Pennsylvania. And I just heard something about John Adams doing something wild in the second presidency. And how far along was Lincoln? 16th, right?
16, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just the terribleness.
Okay.
I think if we go back, I think it's all terrible. And you've got this system that looks really good. Like, look at all these checks and balances. And it doesn't work. None of it works. There was election fraud in the 1800s. And we're like, wow, we're dealing with election fraud now. Been a thing all along.
Not a new thing, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have computers or paper. I don't know. That's a subject for another time.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, yeah, because I don't think that the United States government was ever citizen-centric like we want it to be.
Okay.
Because you figure from the beginning they needed to pay the war debt, and then Washington said two levels of taxation for alcohol. One for people who can do it by the barrel, corporations or bigger groups, and and then you had to pay much more taxes if you were the smaller guy. Rebellion breaks out, so you're immediately oppressing and exploiting your small, the mom and pops.
Yeah.
Already being exploited. President won. You think at least you'd have one term
right,
where there wouldn't be the exploitation of stuff.
Okay.
That's what I got.
So at the very least, this is a valid conversation to have with your friends, or just you're talking politics and communism or whatever comes up. Just throw this idea out there and see if you can get a good conversation.
Yeah, I agree, because it's not
polarizing or anything.
Polarizing.
It's just a different idea that people don't consider.
And then later on, after they've molded around their head, you can be like, I wonder what citizen-centric governments there were in the world. Historically, I mean, historically speaking.
There had to be some.
Yeah, Athens.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not controversial.
Okay.
And you can work your way all the way up to Gaddafi and communism, or Hitler and National Socialism, and some wild stuff that was really working for the people.
Sure.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, very cool. I hope you enjoyed this idea. If you have any thoughts or ways to expand this,
or a better term than citizen-centric.
Okay. Yeah, I do like it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was clunky.
I thought it was going to be some totalitarianism or something.
Okay.
So, let us know your thoughts below, and we'll see you next time.